Evaluation question 7. Looking back at the preliminary task, what do you feel you have learnt in progression to the full product?
I think that, looking back at our preliminary task, there have been several improvements to our filming methods. We used what we already knew previously, such as the action matches. However, our product seems to flow a lot smoother as there are no jump cuts and the editing pace is faster, as the shots in our preliminary task were longer than they were for our product, which would have led to an increase in the number of shots we needed as well.
As well as the larger number of shots that we needed for our editing, our product has better post-production editing, such as the titles that fit the film better and the use of voiceovers. The titles gave our film a sense of identity, which the preliminary task didn't have, as that was very basic and didn't suit the genre of the film. So after doing some research into titles from the TV program Fringe and the movie Panic Room, we found a more suitable style of title which could be added to our product. The preliminary task may have been interesting to the audience, however, there was almost no information about the story, and so it made little to no sense to our audience. We had the same problem with our product after we finished filming. However, that was overcome through the addition of voiceovers. So this bit of post-production helped to make the film more understandable, and therefore we learnt how to make our film more appealing and enjoyable for our target audience. Lighting was also a key part of our filming, which wasn't used previously in our preliminary task, and so with the use of key-to-fill lighting, we could make the shots more visible and also make our production look more professional. Another way we used lighting was for creating a suitable mood in parts of the film. An example of this would be the use of lighting in the corner to create a tense atmosphere in the antagonist's office. We removed all other forms of lighting such as natural light from the window and turned off the room light to make the scene darker, but at the same time still visible, as this helped create a great sense of foreboding in the film, and left our focus group on the edge of their seats wondering what was going to happen. In the preliminary task, we chose to use samples of scores that were already located from the GarageBand software for our Mac. This gave a limited amount of sound that we could use, and the effect wasn't to our satisfaction. However, we changed the storyline for our task in order to fit the scores that we had available, which improved it a little. For our product, we did make up our own scores, which greatly improved the quality of our film, as the sounds that we used fitted well with our storyline for our thriller. As a result of our product, not only sounded more professional, it also fit well with what we intended to use our score for, which was to create an eerie atmosphere, as well as using part of the score to introduce characters such as the assassin and the antagonist. Previously, there was no use of storyboarding for our preliminary task, and this made the whole filming process very long, for quite a short piece of film. And it made the preliminary task tougher to plan out, as there was no clear story behind what we were filming. However, as we use storyboarding for our production, our thriller has a proper story behind it, which gives us the chance to expand on the introduction if necessary, and it's overall made a bit more sense as we were able to plan out how we were going to present the characters and show their significance in the whole product. In comparison to the preliminary task, our product is more varied in location, as the product is set in 4 different locations, unlike the preliminary task, which was only set in one location, which was our media studies classroom. We felt that having more than one location would make our thriller more adventurous, and therefore would engage our target audience more, as it would keep them interested, seeing as they would be introduced to new areas as well as new characters. Lastly, we felt that the most important part of mise-en-scène that we didn't incorporate into our preliminary task were the character costumes. In the preliminary task, it is apparent that no thought was put into the costumes for each of the 2 characters, and this therefore caused a lot of confusion for the audience. Having both of them in the same uniform only made it seem like they were working together until they started to fight. As a result of this, we chose to look carefully at how the characters were going to be dressed in this product. The Prime Minister was given a suit to wear, as it has connotations of a person with a high level of authority. This is greatly contrasted by the Prime Minister's son, who we chose to dress in casual clothes, the opposite to the Prime Minister, and this gave connotations of a person who wasn't in possession of high levels of power. This made the target seem more vulnerable and unable to defend himself, as he did not seem to be in any position to protect himself from the assassin, who was waiting to know whether to kill him or not.